Hey guys, it's Paradise, and just when you thought you had the strongest build figured out, it turns out an old classic, the Blasphemous Blade, is actually one of the most powerful, easy to use and fun to play weapons with the right build. If you're a true OG, you may remember over 2 years ago I made a video showing off my personal faith build utilizing the Blasphemous Blade, and honestly that build still absolutely slaps. But you guys have been asking for an update since the new Shadow of the Erdtree DLC release. Well, now after a bunch of playtesting and theory crafting, there's a few tweaks and new items to optimize this build even further, taking it to a whole new level. Honestly, it feels like the DLC added in items that specifically synergize with this, bringing it from an already S tier weapon to an SS tier weapon. So here's the updated build guide, going over all of the items, gear, spells, flask, armor, and stats that you need to get this build going and become unstoppable. Drop a like and comment below to let us know if you enjoy the video and build. So let's jump into it, and this build revolves around the Blasphemous Blade, its insane skill, the Taker's Flame, fire damage in general, Powerstance in greatswords for incredibly strong jump attacks, as well as faith incantations. The Blasphemous Blade can be obtained by defeating Rykard, the Lord of Blasphemy, and trading his remembrance at the Round Table Hold. It requires 22 strength, 15 dex, and 21 faith, but at plus 10, it has primary scaling in faith at B rank, making it perfect for pure faith builds. Outside of its busted unique skill, it also gives you 4% max HP and 40 flat HP whenever an enemy nearby you dies, making it great for traversing through any of the levels in the DLC or the base game. And the unique skill Taker's Flame not only deals massive damage over a long distance, but also heals you for 10% max HP and 150 flat on top. So for both burst damage and survivability, you can cast or straight spam this skill, deleting bosses in literally just a few casts. You're going to want a seal on the build to make use of your faith buffs and incantations, and with our pure faith, the Erdtree seal is our top option with massive scaling at plus 10 due to our high faith. You can get this near the Omen Killer enemy in the town just below the Prison Town Church Site of Grace in the Volcano Manor. For your offhand weapon that you'll swap to when powerstancing, I actually recommend the Iron Greatsword when infused with Flame Art, and then any Ash of War that you like, and the new Flame Skewer and Flame Spear are fantastic. This greatsword has possibly the highest attack power for physical and fire when spec'd into Flame Art out of any of the other options. This means it will make use of our many fire stacking buffs, and our power stance attacks will also become more powerful when doing melee or jump attacks because they're both greatswords, and this is also piling on to the already existing fire damage. You can get the Iron Greatsword at the Haligtree Town Plaza Site of Grace and farm the misbegotten enemy that's just nearby. There's a few alternatives if you don't want to use the Iron Greatsword though. The Sword of Milos has a passive FP regen when defeating enemies, which of course works nice with the HP regen of the Blasphemous Blade. The Sacred Sword is also OP for the Wave of Gold skill if you're dealing with a lot of trash mobs, and my personal favourite from the original build I made, the Golden Order Greatsword, which also power stances but will give you a ton of holy damage, so that's good depending on the enemy's resistances you're fighting. Of course, depending on the offhands you want to bring, you may need to tweak your dex stat later on. For our armor though, the new Rakshasas will be our go-to. It's a whole armor set where each piece increases all of the damage we deal by 2% each, but also increases the damage we take. But with all of the healing and the pure damage of the Blasphemous Blade, the extra damage is not a problem. It basically means we hit 8% harder in all of our attacks and skills. You can get this one in the Eastern Nameless Mausoleum, nearby the upstream or downstream Recluse's River Grace Point. Then for our talismans, the Fire Scorpion Charm is a must pick. It will lower our damage negation, but gives us a massive 12% boost to all fire damage, and we're doing a lot of fire damage with this build with Taker's Flame and the fire damage on the weapon attacks, so this is a must pick. Then we have the new Talisman of the Dread. This increases magma potency by 14%, but interestingly it applies this bonus to the Taker's Flame skill, making it a new direct upgrade to the build, so this is also a must-have. You can easily grab this by starting at the Castle Front Grace Point and following this route down the hill along the cliff edge until you get to the Elder's Hovel, where this is a shiny on the floor inside. Then our next must pick is the Shard of Alexander, a standard for all skill builds, as this increases skill damage by 15%. It's a big boost to our Taker's Flame skill again, and to get this you must complete Iron Alexander's questline in the base game. And for our final Talisman slot, it's like a utility slot where you can use whatever you prefer. I like the Radagon's Saw Seal for the +5 to Vigor, Endurance, Strength and Dexterity, which are all stats we will directly benefit from, but lack the points to invest in with our actual level up due to the high faith of the build. The two-headed Turtle Talisman is also great for massive stamina regen, which can come very in handy when spamming. The Erdtree's Favor is also nice for more max HP and stamina, while also giving a bit of extra equip load. The defensive options like Dragon Crest is also spot on depending on what you're fighting, and will help mitigate the various sources of increased damage that we take with other items in the build. If you want to lean into the melee aspect of the build, then the Claw Talisman is fantastic, as this will boost your jump attacks, and the Powerstance jump attacks are already very strong. This then makes them 15% stronger. The Old Lord's Talisman is also a very comfy one to use, as this increases our spell buff duration by 30%, which means less downtime and recasting. And then you have the Carrion Filigreed Crest, which will reduce the FP cost of skills, so if you like to spam Taker's Flame non-stop, this might be your best pick. And now we have to talk about the new Busted Madness combo, which is insane if you don't mind even more buff spamming pre-fight. The Black Dumpling Helmet will boost all of our damage by 10% for 60 seconds if you're suffering from madness. You can farm this one from the first generation Albinorix just at the Guest Hall Grace Point in the Volcano Manor. There's a bunch of them nearby, making it fairly easy to farm back to back. Then we have the new Aged One's Exaltation Talisman, which is a 20% attack power buff for 30 seconds when madness is triggered nearby, including on yourself. You can get this by using a shield such as the Rift Shield to parry them and then kill them. There's one located just here on the map, which is nearby the Church Ruins Grace Point in the Abyssal Woods. Do note, you don't have to hit them with a critical, you just have to parry and then attack them until they die. With these two items, you can then use the Howl of Shabriri to apply madness on yourself pre-fight, giving a massive combination of damage and attack buffs, which ultimately means you can deal even more burst damage on a boss. It's pretty busted to be honest, but I don't like too much spamming or self-status inflicting, and realistically it's already an OP build without this, so I don't feel like this is required, but go ahead if you want. For your spells, you're going to want the classics. Golden Vow for the increased attack and defense buff, Flame Grant Me Strength for more fire and physical attack, and Bestial Vitality for the heal over time, making us even more unkillable. Then take whatever offensive incantations you like. I prefer the Black Blade, the Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike, Catch Flame, Giant Flame Take Thee, and the new Fire Serpent incant, which is surprisingly good and spammable. For your Wondrous Physick mix, the Blood-Sucking Cracked Tear is ideal here. It's a massive 20% attack boost at the cost of draining your HP, but remember the Taker's Flame massively heals you with each cast, so this is literally not a problem, and you have Bestial Vitality to help mitigate it too. After that, the Flame Shrouding Cracked Tear is a perfect boost to all of our fire damage, adding to both our weapons fire attack and our Taker's Flame skill, so it's perfect. And then we have the stats that you're going to need. I recommend between 50 and 60 Vigor. Many prefer 60 for the new DLC bosses, but you can go lower based on your skill level and how you're finding things. For Mind, I recommend 26, as this is just enough to spam spells and Taker's Flame, as well as summon many of the Ashes of War with a high FP cost. For Endurance on this build, you're going to want 35. This is enough to have a medium roll with both the armor set and the two greatswords, plus you have a good amount of stamina for attacking and spamming. For Strength, you need at least 22 for the Blasphemous Blade's requirement, but you can go higher if you have the extra points in your higher level. For Dexterity, again you want the weapon requirement, which is 15, and then dump Int and Arcane. We won't need anything from them. But for Faith, you ideally want to get to 80, and if you're a lower level you could go to 70, but hitting 80 will be the cap, whereby we get the most damage out of it, but after this point the diminishing returns are too high. So there you have it, my new updated and frankly busted Blasphemous Blade Faith build. If you've tried it out, tell me what you think about it below, and would you change anything? Let's all learn together as a community, and make sure you're subscribed for more Elden Ring on the channel for you right now.